It started as a normal Tuesday at the Global Deep Space Monitoring Station in Nevada. The coffee was bitter, the screens were bright, and Jane Miller was fighting to stay awake during her night shift. Then every alarm in the facility began to scream. "Sir, multiple objects just appeared past Jupiter's orbit." Jane's fingers flew across her keyboard as she tried to make sense of the readings. "They're big, really big." Station Chief Robert Thompson grabbed his secure phone, his face pale under the flashing red emergency lights. "Get me Admiral Walker. Now." Within minutes, the United Earth Defense Forces Command Center hummed with activity. Admiral James Walker stood before the main display, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic representation of Earth's solar system. Hundreds of red dots were moving steadily inward from Jupiter, arranged in perfect geometric formations. "How many?" he asked quietly. "Over 3,000 vessels, sir. Largest is approximately 15 kilometers in length." The technical officer's voice shook slightly. "They're not even trying to hide their approach." Walker nodded slowly. They had trained for this, planned for this, but the reality of first contact was still overwhelming. "Broadcast the greeting package on all frequencies. Let's see if they're here to talk." They weren't. The response came less than an hour later. The main screen flickered and revealed a tall, humanoid figure. Its skin was pale gray, and elaborate markings covered its face. The being wore what appeared to be a military uniform, decorated with symbols of rank and achievement. "People of Earth." The alien spoke in perfect English, clearly using advanced translation technology. "I am Lord Dox of the Imperial Collective. Our empire spans 3,000 worlds across 12 galaxies. We have come to offer you the privilege of joining our magnificent civilization." Walker's eyes narrowed. He'd seen enough historical documents to recognize an imperial proclamation when he heard one. "And if we decline this privilege?" Lord Dox's expression didn't change, but his tone grew colder. "Decline? You misunderstand, Admiral. This is not a negotiation. You have 48 of your Earth hours to surrender control of your world and accept imperial authority. Those who resist will be made examples of. Those who comply will be treated fairly as imperial subjects." The Admiral glanced around the command center. Young faces looked back at him, scared but determined. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, ever since they'd found that crashed scout ship in the Arizona desert. The ship that the Empire didn't know they'd discovered. "Lord Dox." Walker's voice was calm, almost friendly. "Let me be clear about something. Earth isn't interested in becoming anyone's subject. We decline your offer." For the first time, the alien's composure cracked slightly. "You? Decline? Perhaps you don't understand your situation. My fleet carries enough firepower to reduce your cities to ash. Your primitive defenses cannot hope to." "No." The single word cut through Dox's speech like a knife. The alien actually blinked in confusion. "What did you say?" "I said no." Walker smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's a complete sentence in our language. It means we reject your offer, refuse your demands, and will not surrender our world. Is that clear enough for your translation software?" Lord Dox's face twisted in rage. "You dare? You primitive, arrogant species. You will learn respect through pain. You have 48 hours. Surrender or face extinction." The transmission cut off. Walker immediately turned to his communications officer. "Send the alert. All defense stations activate, and get me Dr. Miller at the Phoenix facility. Tell her it's time to power up the shield grid." As the command center erupted into activity, Walker looked back at the screen showing the approaching fleet. The Empire thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would bow before their superior technology. They were about to learn a costly lesson about humanity. Sometimes the most powerful message was the simplest one: no. And Earth was about to show the Empire exactly what that no meant. Dr. Anna Miller stood in the center of the Phoenix facility's main control room, surrounded by humming machines that had been waiting 20 years for this moment. Behind her, Through reinforced windows, she could see the massive dish array that would power Earth's greatest secret. "Power levels at 80% and climbing," reported her assistant, Jack. "All nodes responding." She nodded, watching as green lights spread across the global map on her main screen. Hidden facilities around the world were coming online, each one built using knowledge gained from that crashed alien ship that found all those years ago. "Dr. Miller," Admiral Walker's face appeared on the communications screen. "The Empire's fleet has crossed Mars' orbit. Their attack window opens in 15 minutes. "They're in for quite a surprise," she replied, checking the final readings. "The shield grid is almost ready. Did they take the bait?" Walker smiled grimly. "Just as you predicted. Their scans show only our visible military bases and conventional weapons. They think we're defenseless." The Empire had no idea that the primitive radar stations dotting Earth's surface were actually advanced energy projectors. Each one was capable of linking with the others to create an overlapping shield matrix that could protect the entire planet. "All stations report ready," Jack announced. "Shield grid at full power." Through the facility's powerful telescopes, they could see the Imperial fleet taking up attack positions. Their massive ships looked like dark clouds against the stars, weapons ports sliding open as they prepared to demonstrate their superiority. The first shots came exactly when their deadline expired. Massive energy beams lanced down from the Imperial ships, meant to destroy Earth's major military installations in a single strike. They never reached their targets. The radar stations activated simultaneously. Beams of pure energy shot up from each one, connecting in a complex web pattern high in the atmosphere. When the Imperial weapons hit this energy field, they didn't just stop. They bounced back. "My God," Jack whispered, watching the display. Several Imperial ships were hit by their own weapons, their shields flaring as they absorbed the unexpected return fire. Lord Dox's face appeared on their screen, his usual composure completely gone. "What trickery is this? You cannot possess such technology." "Actually," Dr. Miller stepped forward, "we've had 20 years to study the scout ship you lost over Arizona. Did you really think we wouldn't learn anything from it? Impossible. That ship was destroyed." "You mean this ship?" She pressed a button, and an image appeared beside her. A sleek Imperial scout vessel, perfectly preserved in an underground facility. "We found it before your recovery team arrived. Then we made sure they found enough wreckage to think it had been destroyed on impact." The alien commander's face twisted with rage. "It doesn't matter. Our fleet's power cannot be matched. We will break through your shields." "About that," Miller smiled, "you should know, we didn't just copy your technology. We improved it." As if to prove her point, the shield grid pulsed. Waves of energy rippled across its surface, and suddenly every Imperial scanning system went dark. Their targeting computers couldn't lock onto anything on Earth's surface. "You see," Miller continued, "we had something you didn't when studying this technology. Fresh eyes. No preconceptions about what it could or couldn't do. And we found some very interesting possibilities you never explored." Walker's voice came through their speakers. "All defense stations, execute Protocol Alpha. Show them what Earth's primitive defenders can do." Around the planet, hidden silos opened. But instead of missiles, they launched swarms of small, highly maneuverable craft that no one outside of Earth's defense forces had ever seen before. The Empire was about to learn that humanity hadn't spent the last. Captain Mark Thompson sat in the cockpit of his Strike Hawk, one of Earth's new hybrid fighters, watching the massive Imperial cruiser drift past his position. His ship, barely larger than an old F-35, was powered down and floating among the debris of an earlier battle. To Imperial scanners, it looked like just another piece of space junk. "Strike Team Alpha, hold position," he whispered into his comm. 5 acknowledgement lights blinked on his display. 5 other Strike Hawks, waiting just like him. The Imperial ships were huge and powerful, but they were also slow and predictable. They moved in strict formations, following textbook military doctrine, that probably hadn't changed in centuries. Time to teach them some new tricks. Now, Thompson's ship came to life, along with the others. Before the Imperial cruiser could react, 6 Strike Hawks rocketed out of the debris field, their engines glowing with strange blue fire, another gift from studying that crashed scout ship. The cruiser's shields were designed to stop heavy weapons, plasma cannons, mass strikers, nuclear missiles. They weren't prepared for the small, precise cutting beams that the Strike Hawks carried. These weapons, barely more powerful than industrial mining lasers, slipped right through the gaps in their shield coverage. "Target their sensor arrays," Thompson ordered. "Blind them first, then hit their engines." His team moved like dancers in zero gravity, each fighter attacking from a different angle. The Imperial ship's point defense weapons were too slow to track them. By the time the cruiser's crew realized what was happening, their main sensors were gone, and their engine containment was failing. Meanwhile, in a hidden bunker under London, Tom Reed and his team of hackers were fighting their own battle. Their screens showed streams of alien code, the Empire's military communications network. "They're still using the same basic protocols from that scout ship." Reed grinned, his fingers flying over his keyboard. "They never expected anyone to crack their unbreakable encryption. Upload the virus." The virus, designed using the Empire's own coding language, spread through their network like wildfire. Suddenly, Imperial ships across the solar system began receiving conflicting orders. Some got emergency retreat commands. Others were told to hold position no matter what. A few even received orders to attack their own allies. Back in space, Thompson watched the chaos unfold. "Control, this is Strike Team Alpha. Primary target is disabled. Moving to secondary targets." "Confirmed, Alpha." Admiral Walker's voice came through. "Be advised, the enemy is implementing emergency communications protocols. Expect increased resistance." Thompson smiled. "Let them try. It's harder to hit what you can't predict." His team scattered, each fighter choosing a different disabled Imperial ship as their next target. The Empire's commanders had never faced an enemy that fought like this. They expected grand fleet battles, ships of the line exchanging broadsides like some ancient naval engagement. Instead, they got this: dozens of tiny fighter groups striking from nowhere, disappearing before the Empire could respond. Earth's forces were like ghosts, impossible to pin down or predict. In his command ship, Lord Dox was reaching the same conclusion. "Find them," he roared at his tactical officers. "How can such primitive vessels evade our best tracking systems?" "My lord," one officer spoke hesitantly, "they appear to be using modified versions of our own stealth systems, but they've made changes we've never seen before." "Impossible. These humans are savages. They cannot." His words were cut off as the lights in his command center flickered and died. Reed's voice came through all their speakers, speaking in perfect Imperial Standard language. "Having some technical difficulties, Lord Dox. Maybe you shouldn't have underestimated those savages after all." The Empire was learning a hard lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons. Sometimes it's the one who learns to use your own strength against you. And humanity was just getting started. Commander Rex stood on the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Eternal Night, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. His reputation for crushing rebellions had earned him this emergency deployment, and he intended to live up to it. "Deploy the bioweapons," he ordered. "Let's see how their shields handle something smaller than molecules." Thousands of canisters launched from his fleet, each containing engineered viruses designed to target basic carbon-based life. The Empire had used these weapons to end rebellions on dozens of worlds. No planetary shield had ever stopped them. But as the canisters entered Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. "Sir," his science officer called out. "The humans, they're using some kind of energy field to break down the virus containers at the molecular level." In her underground lab, Dr. Miller watched her screens with satisfaction. "Did they really think we wouldn't prepare for biological warfare?" We've had decades to study their technology. Molecular disassemblers were one of the first things we developed. The Empire's next attack came from their planet cracker ships, massive vessels designed to tear worlds apart with gravitational weapons. They positioned themselves at key points around Earth's orbit. Full power to the gravity beams, Commander Rex ordered. Tear their world apart. The beams fired, powerful enough to shatter a planet's crust. But Earth had one more surprise waiting. Admiral Walker stood in his command center, watching the attack unfold. Activate the gravity mirrors. All around Earth, hidden satellites came to life. They caught the Empire's gravity beams and redirected them, right back at the ships that fired them. 3 planet cracker ships were torn apart by their own weapons before the others could power down. Impossible. Commander Rex slammed his fist on his command console. How could they have countered our most powerful weapons? The answer came in Admiral Walker's voice, broadcasting on all frequencies. We found your weapons testing records in that scout ship's database. Did you think we wouldn't prepare defenses? But Rex wasn't finished. He had one last weapon, the Empire's elite shock troops. Soldiers in powered armor began teleporting directly onto Earth's surface, bypassing the shield grid. They appeared in major cities, ready to spread terror and destruction. But instead of panicked civilians, they found empty streets. And then they met Earth's own powered infantry. In New York, an Imperial squad materialized in Times Square. Before they could move, they were surrounded by soldiers in sleek armor that looked oddly familiar. Like our suits, a human commander's voice came through on their frequency. We reversed engineered them from your designs. Made a few improvements too. The Imperial troops found their weapons wouldn't fire, jammed by countermeasures the humans had built into the very streets. Their armored shields flickered and died, disabled by precisely targeted EMP pulses. In his ship, Commander Rex watched in horror as report after report came in. His elite troops were being captured or driven back everywhere they appeared. My lord, his communications officer spoke hesitantly. We're receiving a transmission from their commander. Admiral Walker's face appeared on their main screen. Commander Rex, I'd say it's a pleasure to meet you, but we both know that would be a lie. You cannot defeat the Empire, Rex snarled. We have conquered thousands of worlds. And that's exactly your problem, Walker replied calmly. You've gotten used to fighting enemies who don't understand your technology. But we do. We understand it better than you do. To prove his point, every Imperial ship's engines suddenly shut down. Their weapons went offline. Even their life support systems flickered. This is your only warning, Walker continued. Leave Earth's space. Tell your Empire that we're not interested in their offer. And if they send another fleet, he smiled grimly. Well, we'll send it back in pieces too. The Empire had brought their best weapons and elite forces to crush Earth. Instead, they had learned a painful lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one you've just discovered. It's the one who's been quietly studying you for years. Dr. Miller hadn't slept in 36 hours, but she couldn't stop reading. The data they'd stolen from the Empire's ships was a gold mine, but what she found made her blood run cold. Admiral Walker, she called over the secure line. You need to see this. Now. In the command center, she displayed her findings on the main screen. Ancient star maps, technical diagrams, and historical records scrolled past. The Empire didn't invent any of this technology, she explained, pointing to key sections. They stole it. All of it. Look at these dates. Their imperial technology is actually from civilizations they destroyed thousands of years ago. Walker studied the documents carefully. Are you sure about this? Completely. The scout ship we found. It wasn't even their design. It was copied from a species called the Builders, who the Empire wiped out 5,000 years ago. She pulled up more files. And here's the interesting part. They don't fully understand how most of it works. Tom Reed joined them, adding his own discoveries from the hacked Imperial networks. That's why our improvements to their tech work so well. We actually studied how it functions. They just copy and use without understanding. Show me everything, Walker ordered. The truth was worse than they imagined. The Empire had spent millennia moving from galaxy to galaxy, finding advanced civilizations, destroying them, and stealing their technology. They kept just enough of the conquered peoples alive to maintain the equipment they couldn't fully understand. Look at their ship designs, Miller pointed out. They're using power systems from one civilization, weapons from another, shields from a third. They just bolt things together without understanding the principles behind them. That explains a lot, Reed nodded. Their computer security was terrible because they're using systems they barely understand. They can't fix vulnerabilities they don't even know exist. Walker watched as more evidence filled the screens. How many civilizations? At least 30 major ones, Miller answered. Each with their own scientific advances. The Empire destroyed them all, took what they wanted, and erased their history. But the Empire had made a crucial mistake with Earth. By giving humanity time to study the crashed scout ship, they'd allowed humans to do something none of their previous victims could, learn the technology's true principles from the ground up. There's more, Miller said quietly. Some of these civilizations survived. They're in hiding, scattered across different galaxies. The Empire hunts them constantly, afraid they'll reclaim their technology. Walker straightened up. Can we contact them? Better than that, Reed grinned. I've already found their hidden communication networks. They're watching this conflict. All of them. We're the first civilization to ever fight back successfully. Then let's give them something worth watching. Walker smiled grimly. Dr. Miller, how many of the Empire's systems can we shut down now that we know their true origins? All of them, she replied. Their entire fleet is running on borrowed technology that we now understand better than they do. We can shut them down, restart them, overload them, anything we want. Walker turned to his communications officer. Send a message to all Earth forces. The Empire isn't invincible. They're not even original. They're just thieves who've gotten away with it for too long. He looked back at the screen showing the Imperial fleet, still trying to break through Earth's defenses. They thought their technology made them superior. Instead, it was about to become their greatest weakness. Dr. Miller, prepare our countermeasures. Mr. Reed, get ready to broadcast everything we found to every species in range. Walker's voice was firm. It's time to show the Empire what happens when they fight someone who actually understands the weapons they're using. The Empire had spent thousands of years stealing and hoarding the galaxy's knowledge. Now that knowledge was about to be used against them by the very primitives they'd tried to conquer. Admiral Walker stood on the bridge of the Earth's first true battleship, the Defiant. Built using properly understood alien technology, it was smaller than Imperial ships, but far more powerful. 20 more like it waited in formation behind him, hidden from Imperial sensors by improved stealth systems. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. Strike teams in position. Walker nodded. Send the message. On every Imperial channel, in every language the Empire used, Earth's declaration played. You came to our world thinking we were primitive. You threatened us with stolen technology you barely understand. Now, let us show you what that technology can do in the hands of those who truly comprehend it. The Defiant and its sister ships dropped their stealth fields. To the Imperial fleet, it must have looked like Earth's defenders had finally lost their minds. 21 small ships charging straight at 3,000 Imperial vessels. Lord Dox's laughter echoed across the command channel. This is your great counterattack. A suicide run. Not quite, Walker replied calmly. Dr. Miller, if you would. In her lab, Miller pressed a single button. The signal she prepared, based on the Empire's own command codes, flashed out across space. Suddenly, half of the Imperial fleet's weapons turned and aimed at their own ships. Impossible, Dox screamed. You really should have studied those systems before you stole them. Miller's voice was almost gentle. The builders included override commands in everything they made. commands you never even knew existed. The Earth fleet opened fire. Their weapons, properly calibrated versions of Imperial technology, cut through the enemy's shields like they weren't even there. Each shot found its target with perfect accuracy, guided by targeting systems that understood every flaw in Imperial defenses. "Tom, your turn," Walker called. Reed's fingers danced across his keyboard. Imperial ships began broadcasting their internal data, crew logs, military records, strategic plans, everything Earth's hackers could find about the Empire's crimes against other civilizations. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Reed reported. Every surviving species in range is seeing this. The Empire's secrets are secrets no more. The Imperial fleet tried to fight back, but their ships wouldn't respond properly. Systems crashed, weapons misfired, and shields fluctuated wildly. Everything they had stolen, everything they had used to terrorize the galaxy, was turning against them. "This is your final warning," Walker broadcast to the enemy fleet. "You can retreat now, or we can demonstrate exactly how well we understand your stolen technology. Your choice." In his command ship, Lord Dox faced a mutiny. His own crews, many from conquered worlds, were turning against him after learning the truth about their superior technology. "You cannot do this," he raged. "We are the Imperial Collective. We have ruled for thousands of years. And now you've met someone who actually understands the tools you've been misusing," Walker replied. "Funny how that works." The Earth fleet moved through the Imperial Armada like a knife through paper. Their smaller ships were faster, their weapons more precise, their tactics unpredictable. They didn't need overwhelming numbers. They had something better, true understanding. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "Imperial ships are breaking formation." "Many are. They're surrendering, sir." Walker watched as the mighty Imperial fleet began to crumble. Some ships fled, others powered down their weapons, and a few even turned their guns on their former masters. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Operation Understanding is a success. And send a message to our new friends in hiding. Tell them it's time to come out of the shadows. The Empire's monopoly on advanced technology is over." The Empire had spent millennia building their power on stolen knowledge. They never imagined that giving a primitive species time to study that knowledge would lead to their downfall. But that's the thing about humans. Give them time to understand something, and they'll always find a way to improve it. The Great Hall of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters was packed with representatives from 100 different species. Some appeared in person, others as holograms, but all had come for the same reason: to witness humanity's message to the galaxy. Admiral Walker stood at the podium, facing not just the assembled delegates but cameras broadcasting to thousands of worlds. Behind him, screens showed the captured Imperial ships being studied by international teams of scientists. 3 months ago, he began, the Empire came to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found something they'd never encountered before: a species that had time to understand the technology they tried to use against us. The screens changed to show the evidence they'd gathered: the Empire's crimes, their technological theft, their destruction of ancient civilizations. "But today isn't about the Empire's crimes," Walker continued. "It's about the future. Earth is declaring itself a sanctuary world. To any species hiding from Imperial persecution, our doors are open. To any world wanting to break free from Imperial control, you have an ally." Dr. Miller stepped forward next, activating a holographic display that filled the hall. It showed technical diagrams, scientific principles, and engineering schematics. The Empire hoarded knowledge, keeping it for themselves. We choose a different path. Everything we've learned about the technology they stole, we're sharing it freely. Let everyone understand it, improve it, make it their own. In the audience, representatives from the surviving builder civilization watched with tears in their eyes as humanity explained their ancestors' work better than they could themselves. Tom Reed took the stage next, surrounded by floating screens showing streams of data. The Empire's control relied on keeping their subjects ignorant. That ends today. We're opening their databases, their archives, their secret files. Knowledge wants to be free. And now it will be. The broadcast reached every corner of known space. On thousands of worlds, people watched as humanity dismantled the Empire's power not through brute force, but through understanding and sharing. Earth is not interested in building an empire, Walker declared. We don't want subjects or servants. What we want is neighbors, partners, friends. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to grow, learn, and thrive together. In Imperial space, the broadcast couldn't be blocked. Every attempt to shut it down failed against Earth's superior understanding of the communication systems. Countless Imperial subjects watched as their rulers' lies were exposed. To the Empire's leadership, Walker's voice grew stern. Your date is done. You can adapt to the new reality or fade into history. Either way, your time of stealing and hoarding knowledge is over. He smiled then, looking directly into the cameras. But to everyone else in the galaxy, we say this. Welcome to a new age. Earth's libraries are open. Earth's schools are open. Earth's laboratories are open. Come learn with us. Come build with us. Come grow with us. The hall erupted in applause. Species that had hidden in fear for generations stood openly, proudly. Former Imperial subjects threw off their chains of ignorance. And through it all, Earth's message spread across the stars. Knowledge belongs to everyone. Understanding cannot be stolen. And humanity would rather teach than conquer. In his office later, Walker watched ships from a dozen different species landing at Earth's new galactic exchange center. Scientists, engineers, and scholars from across the galaxy coming together to share and learn. Quite a change from firing missiles at each other, Miller commented, joining him at the window. Walker nodded. The Empire thought technology made them strong. They never understood that real strength comes from knowing how to use it wisely. On his desk, reports showed Imperial worlds declaring independence, choosing to join Earth's growing network of free, knowledge-sharing civilizations. The Empire hadn't just lost a battle. They had lost their reason for existing. The message was clear. Earth was indeed off-limits to conquerors and thieves. But to friends and learners, Earth's doors would always be open.